for someone who lives in Austin and works statewide, Houston to me is kind of like former Yugoslavia. It's sort of Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serbia and Montenegro, and you've got this massive region with, 9 community college systems and 50 school districts and all these different sectors and employers. So it's always a question to me, like, how the hell are they getting anything done, in this massive region? And you were doing that at scale. So we're very proud to be here to talk about STEM and to understand, the jobs and the needs of what you have in Houston, to understand the challenges with faculty within the STEM fields, and how hard that is to recruit and keep great faculty, especially when their potential compensation, if they stay in the industry of which they learned, is very, very different. And then just the collaborations and the platform. So we feel very fortunate on behalf of Chris Coxon and Kelty Garby, Kirsten DeLay Isaac, the Educate Texas team, to be here today and to be a partner. So to get the show on the road, we're going to hear from the president of Lee College, Dennis Brown. Dennis is a veteran educator. He's also a veteran of the military. He's a veteran with Educate Texas and has worked with us for 11 years. And Dennis is really a servant leader. If you spend any time with Dennis, it's not about him. It's about the students. It's about the faculty. It's about the partners. He puts everyone else except him out front. So it's fun to have him in the spotlight on stage for a change. And please join me in welcoming President Dennis Brown.
John, thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it very much. I do want to welcome everybody here today. Just an exciting time to be talking about STEM. Oh, wait a minute, what did I say? I said STEM and I said exciting. It really is. And that's the challenge that we face, is getting a lot of the folks, kids, young adults, to realize that there's magic in science, technology, engineering, and math. And a lot of our colleges, both at the 2-year level, the university level, and certainly in the public school system, K-12, do a lot of things to try to stimulate that interest. The robotics competitions are amazing, and it excites and it gets kids thinking about, maybe it is fun to do math and science. In our area here, we are so blessed because the Houston economy is just continuing to grow dramatically, in spite of the fact that there's been that slight downturn in the oil industry. Most particularly in our region, petrochemicals, which is a big part of many of the communities in our area, especially along the Gulf Coast, continue to move forward, and their growth and expansions really are unabated. And we got the expert who's going to speak in a moment, and he can tell you a little bit about the reason for that. But we have stopped using, a long time ago, the word jobs. We don't talk about jobs. When we talk about careers. And the amazing thing about this is that with a 2-year degree from a community college, students can earn up to $100,000. Wait a minute, maybe I want to change careers. That's amazing. It's amazing. Those opportunities are out there, and they're still out there today. Peter Beard and I were in Dallas a few weeks ago at the invitation of John and speaking to the folks at Educate Texas. Peter was presenting on the economy of Houston, and he has this just wonderful video. Oh my gosh. They said, we've got to do that here in Dallas. Well, okay, fine. You do it in Dallas whenever you're ready. We've already done it here. I mean, we are already on the road and moving forward. We're excited to be a part of the Texas Regional STEM Accelerator. That word accelerator is really a key word because it's all about we gotta really work fast. We're behind already. We gotta move. We gotta make things happen. And guess what? Ours focuses, because there are 5 in the state. Ours just happens to focus on, guess what, petrochemicals, right? Because that's what's happening in this area. Some of you are familiar with the collective impact and what that's all about, and it's been a movement around the country in that. And Peter, you've put on events that are related to collective impact. Boy, have we collected a group of folks. We've got 4 powerful community colleges. We were fortunate to be asked to lead this STEM Accelerator at Lee College, but San Jacinto College, Houston Community College, and Lone Star College are also there. We've got multiple universities in our area that are also partners with this, a number of school districts, and we have business and industry represented, and Craig Beskid, who is Executive Director of the East Harris County Manufacturing Association, which has been instrumental in our work that we do in helping to get students into our programs and train. It truly is, Peter, a collective, and John, a collective impact. And so we're very, very excited about that. Quick background. First of all, the demand's there. I just mentioned it to you. It's moving forward, and we don't want people to be imported to take these career opportunities. We want to train our folks right here. But the companies can't wait. So there's a sense of urgency to get our folks trained. And by the way, when people move here, it's not their home. It's the place they work. And they don't always stay. So for companies, it's really a lot better if we can get the folks that live here to have those career opportunities. The opportunity to increase the number of women and minorities in the field is critical. This Friday, there's an event down in Galveston, and I won't go into details, but it's focused on women. And it's to attract women to the petrochemical industry. As you might expect with nursing, it's dominated by women. Petrochemicals are dominated by men. But as nursing begins to evolve, and we see more men going into nursing, we're beginning to see more women and more minorities going into the petrochemical. And I guarantee you, every plant manager I've ever spoken to, including Woody, they love veterans. They absolutely love veterans. And all of our community colleges have programs that support veterans and help to provide them the pathway to come into these great programs. What's the one biggest impediment to students pursuing STEM? Yep, mathematics. Mathematics. And so in our program, we're going to be working and focusing on the new Mathways project, which is one that's been going on at UT Austin in the Charles Dana Center for a couple of years now. Very excited to be making that a big part of our STEM Accelerator project here. If we can get the student through the math, and don't wait till they come to us. We need to be partnering with the middle schools and the high schools. And through dual credit now, where high school students are taking college credit, they can have that math taken care of before they even graduate from high school. So we're really looking forward to the opportunities to get students past that barrier, because it really, really is a barrier. We have in this area the Community College Petrochemical Initiative. It's a consortium of all 9 community colleges. And in this very room, we had 3 years ago, we launched that project with a $500,000 donation from ExxonMobil Foundation. And since then, ExxonMobil Foundation has given us a second $500,000 and a third $500,000, so to the tune of $1.5 million to do exactly what we're trying to do with the STEM Accelerator. So guess what? We're going to marry the two. We're bringing the Community College Petrochemical Initiative and the STEM Accelerator for petrochemicals, and we're going to work them together. Now with the wonderful support of the Helmsley Foundation and the J.P. Morgan Chase. Carolyn, we appreciate you, and Rich, we appreciate very much the support that is coming to our area, because we've already got something going here. And now with this infusion of additional support and resources, we're going to even go further, faster. And Woody, we're going to get those folks for you that you desperately need. We're going to strengthen our math pedagogy, how we're teaching math, how we're better able to ensure that students are successful as they go through math. We're going to be working with our faculty in collaboration with industry to ensure that we are having, make sure that we are providing the students with exactly what they need when they leave our institutions and walk into the plants and perform at the high level that they're expected. The very first time I walked into a petrochemical control room. And by the way, you know, from where I am in Baytown, it's about 20 minutes to Johnson Space Center, right? I thought I took a wrong turn, and I thought I went to Johnson Space Center because it looks just like mission control, high tech. And so obviously we've got to work hard to get the students to perform at that high level. So we're very, very excited about that. We're going to have a professional development institute that will focus on helping our faculty perform at the highest level. And I know you had a meeting earlier today with faculty, and Rich, you were telling me that it was just a fabulous experience, the excitement in what's going on. So let me close by just saying, and I'm going to take a little point of personal privilege. I want to thank some folks. As the lead institution, a few folks have really stepped up at Lee College and have made a big difference. Dr. Christina Ponce, who is our Vice President for Student Success, Workforce, and Research Development. Christy, thank you for providing the overall leadership. Angela Oriano, Angela back here. Angela is heading up as our project director for our STEM Accelerator here in the Houston area. Debbie Jordan. Debbie, where are you? In the back. Debbie has been heading up for 3 years now, among many other things at Lee College. Our Community College Petrochemical Initiative. We're also the lead institution among the 9 community colleges for that program. And then Dee Dee Griffith, Dee Dee, over here, former faculty, now our Director of Student Success. She's has a reputation for getting things done, and our Gulf Coast Partners Achieving Student Success has been nothing short of amazing. And so linking the STEM Accelerator to the great work that's already been laid out is just going to be absolutely fabulous. So again, thank you all for being here today. We're so excited about what's going to happen over the next several years and how we can take what we already have here and get here. And we're going to do it quickly because we have a place that we've already started, and now we've got a blueprint from which we can then just expand. And so John, thank you very much for the opportunity. Peter, thanks for hosting us here today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, President Brown. It's a real pleasure to introduce Peter Beard, the Senior Vice President for Regional Workforce Development for the Greater Houston Partnership. As someone who spent 8 years as a Vice President for Chamber in Austin, I have a real appreciation for the challenges and opportunities of herding cats, you know, working across industry sectors and trying to get employers to work together. And I am just in awe of what Peter's done here in the petrochemical industry and what he's starting to do in others. I'm so impressed with Peter's national network and his sort of thoughtful way of always connecting the dots and the synthesis and making sure everyone feels engaged, their contributions are honored, but things get done and it comes together as a comprehensive whole. So please join me in welcoming Peter Beard.
So thank you. And once again, welcome to the Greater Houston Partnership, which is kind of the regional chamber of commerce for the Greater Houston region, and really is intended to serve the 11-12 county footprint that really consists of what Houston's all about. You know, John was kind of referencing what we're doing here at the Greater Houston Partnership, which is really launched about 2 years ago in the form of what is called Upskill Houston, which really focuses on how do we attract, train, and place people into the 7 key industry sectors that drive Houston's regional economy. And so in many respects, that's how we think about the work. And because it comes from the Chamber's perspective, I'm going to add a lens around what is critically important to the partnership, which is to have the employers at the table, to have industry at the table, because at the end of the day, if you think about this as a supply chain issue, the ultimate user, the demand, the folks that seek the demand need to define the requirements extremely clearly so that the suppliers, the folks that are touching our talent pipeline, are critical. And so that demand-driven kind of mindset and having the industry at the table being able to talk about the collective things that they need, not just the individual thing that ExxonMobil needs, but the collective that they need is critically important, which it really kind of shifts us into this other piece, which is without industry also being at the table to signal when something has changed. Things don't happen in the supply chain. So the piece that we need to keep in mind and why STEM becomes critical is innovation and technology are changing how rapidly things occur in our economy. And so industry being able to say something has shifted and we need more of this and less of this is critically important, which then gets us to how do we have a collective mindset. When you think about who touches our talent pipeline in the region, it is multiple people. That starts with the families, the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, all influence how that pipeline activates and supports that. Then you've got the communities and the neighborhoods and the faith-based institutions, all influencers. Then you've got the school districts and the community colleges and the four-year institutions. That pipeline, in terms of everybody who touches it, is critically important. In addition to that, when you think about the underemployed and unemployed folks that are out there, we need to be having greater impact in bringing them into our regional economy so that they share in the prosperity. So that collective mindset of all those players that touch that talent pipeline are critical, because at the end of the day, if we don't have a collective mindset that this is a collective challenge, then the innovation and how quickly we need to change is not going to occur. Because if we're doing it in the old mindset of let's just talk to ExxonMobil and say, what do you need, ExxonMobil? And Dow, what do you need? And Shell, what do you need? It is going to be very slow. So getting more people at the table to be moving in the right direction to what Dr. Brown was talking about, which is this collective impact. We need this collective vision so that people are working differently, which is really a piece that I think when we think about what this opportunity is with the STEM Accelerator, that builds from ExxonMobil's leadership, the collective mindset of the 9 community colleges is somewhat set already. And how they can influence the folks that are in their footprint from the school districts and then up or down the pipeline to the four-year institutions becomes critically important. That fulcrum, that collective mindset is going to help us innovate quicker and ensure that the standards and the quality are higher. And so in many respects, that piece of it that we're all going to face, and Dr. Brown kind of referenced it, and another reason to have industry at the table, we have to activate this pipeline. We have to get people excited about the kinds of opportunities that exist and what that pathway and what that arc of the pathway is. Because I don't think it's a question of if it's a four-year degree, it's a question of when a four-year degree shows up in someone's lifetime. When you think about people being able to enter the workforce directly out of high school, go to a community college, and go to a four-year institution, and work at some point in all of that arc, it's more a question of the arc of completion rather than if someone gets a four-year degree, because that's always needed. And so we've got to think about how does industry help excite and bring their, what the opportunities are. Houston has the opportunity that has an economic engine that is unparalleled in probably the country right now in terms of the petrochemical sector, in terms of the healthcare sector, in terms of the advanced manufacturing sector. And yes, oil and gas. It's cyclical, but at the same point, our economic engine has huge opportunities. We need to open the doors of industry and we need the active participation of the employees, the volunteers that can come into schools and talk about it and inspire kids and have the mentorships and the internships that are necessary to maintain and complete through that. And really, when you think about kind of the opportunity Educate Texas has, it is going to allow Texas to kind of connect its regional economies in a different way, to have the infrastructure to really be a place that is going to help drive not only the U.S. economy, but the world economy. And so in closing, it is the partnership of all these stakeholders that becomes so critical that then allows us to use this multiple systems, the school districts, the community colleges, the four-year institutions, to have consistency, and we're actually going to connect the dots and make sure that there's a good active transition handoff and not just go like, I finished my job and it's the community college's job. So it's really exciting to be here, and in some respects at the end of the day, this is about raising the floor of quality to a new level that allows us to have the opportunities that are essential to ensure that our residents participate in the prosperity and that we can have a wonderful, vibrant economy here in Houston and then ultimately in the state of Texas. So thank you, John.
So one of the things that really distinguished Houston, the last year and a half of this process was the engagement of employers. And one of the things that was most impressive to me is employers weren't coming together around a grant at the request of community colleges or education. There was just this incredible foundation that had been built. And when I came here in 2013, sort of in an exploratory way, I reconnected with Carolyn Watson, and we had actually been to graduate school in the 90s and hadn't seen each other in 15 years. And to see her as the Vice President, Relationship Manager for Global Philanthropy for JP Morgan Chase, to be reminded that she's a native Houstonian and has a real heart for this community. But I also got to see her, before we started working on this grant, in her metrics-driven, kind of butt-kicking, going after what is the result of this project kind of way. And I was like, all right. And then, a year and a half later, when we start working on this grant, and it's, my butt and Dennis's butt, that are the ones at this. But just, I so appreciate, Carolyn's focus on quality and metrics, but I also so appreciate the contribution that JP Morgan Chase is making, not only to Houston and San Antonio and El Paso, where Carolyn works, but really to the entire state and to the entire country, with a very different way at looking at education and workforce development. And I know she'll talk about that a little bit, but please join me in welcoming Carolyn now.
Well, thank you, John, for that very colorful introduction. Don't do the math on me being in graduate school in the 90s. But I do want to thank you for the opportunity to be here for this STEM Accelerator launch. JP Morgan Chase stands with you today on the importance of STEM degrees and certificates that meet local workforce needs. And because we are so passionate about closing the skills gap, I am pleased to announce a $150,000 grant towards this groundbreaking initiative that will reach across the state of Texas. And at JP Morgan Chase, we believe we have a fundamental responsibility to help our clients and our communities navigate their complex social and economic challenges. And towards that end, we have created New Skills at Work, which is a 5-year, $250 million global initiative aimed at closing the skills gap. In Houston, we've committed $5 million for that purpose. So the STEM Accelerator offered great appeal to us for a number of reasons. The first is the Community College Petrochemical Initiative. It's already in place, so we didn't have to start from scratch. And the Accelerator fosters the formation of new relationships between employers and educators towards a common and ambitious goal. And that goal is for 100,000 students across the state of Texas to earn STEM degrees in regionally identified workforce needs. And finally, the Accelerator complements the other work that JP Morgan Chase is doing in partnership with the East Harris County Manufacturers Association and the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning. This partnership, which has been in place for about a year now, has produced what's called petrochemworks.com, which is a one-stop portal for a young person who wants a career or a better career that allows them to take care of themselves and their family. This site showcases career pathways and has a function to match an individual's skills and interests with suitable high-demand occupations. So we invested in the development of that website to increase enrollment in petrochemical education and training programs. And the ultimate aim is to deliver to the community, increase the number of job-ready, work-ready job seekers. The STEM Accelerator fits into this program because it is increasing the enrollments and the persistence rates of the students in these very same programs. So in closing, I want to thank you, Educate Texas, for your leadership, and the Helmsley Foundation for bringing your ideas and your money to Texas. I want to thank Lee College for spearheading this work in the community, and for all the partners who have rolled up their sleeves to advance toward this very common and ambitious goal of 100,000 students in Texas with STEM certificates. Thank you.
So it's a real pleasure to introduce Woody Paul, the plant manager for ExxonMobil, because in a lot of ways, ExxonMobil lit this candle. You know, and that was one of the things that was really attractive to me several years ago. And then there was a meeting that the Greater Houston Partnership hosted where we had Commissioner Michael Williams from TEA, Commissioner Paredes from the Coordinating Board, Chairman Alcorn from the TWC, and there were a lot of employers there, but it was really clear to me that just the leadership role that ExxonMobil had played, you know, in getting this up and running, in sort of, you know, recognizing the key role that middle schools and community colleges play. So it's a real pleasure to ask Woody Paul, the plant manager, to come up and share why this is important to ExxonMobil. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Paul.
So good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's officially afternoon now. I'm really excited to be here. I was here 3 years ago when we kicked all this off, and really appreciate greatly giving ExxonMobil some time today to talk about why this is so important to us. When I talk about ExxonMobil, one of my favorite things to do is talk about people, because I'm really, really proud of our outstanding workforce that works tirelessly 365 days a year, day and night, to run our plants in the safest, most reliable, and environmentally responsible manner, not just in Baytown, where I have my plant, but across the Gulf Coast and across the globe. As you've heard today, despite what you may be reading in the news, skilled positions in the chemical industry are still in demand, and they continue to be amongst the best paid in the country. They provide an opportunity in the industry that brings things that we need in everyday life to be. The plastics that go into our bottles and our wrappers for our foodstuff, the fibers that go into our clothing, plastic parts that go into appliances in our house and into our automobiles. Here in Texas, as you've heard from Dr. Brown, the annual average salary for workers in the petrochemical industry is very close to $100,000 per year, which is more than twice the national average. And to prepare these young people, because we don't just have young people coming in, for these life-changing opportunities, ExxonMobil has supported, as you've heard today, 9 area community colleges led by Lee College over the last 3 years to create and refine a regional workforce development program, the CCPI, or Community College Petrochemical Initiative, which supplies the Texas Gulf Coast with eager, skilled, motivated, and highly capable people. We've invested both our time and our money in this. We've, as you heard, given 3 grants totaling over $1.5 million over the 3 years. The good news is it is working. So you talked about that. It really is working. We've seen meaningful increases in enrollment in the colleges and also in the number of people we're hiring out of the colleges. And we also see the 9 community colleges working very, very well together, collaborating to successfully feed the workforce pipeline that we need to run our plants. But more important, the student stories are the ones that I like, the success stories from the students. And over these 3 years, I've had the opportunity to personally talk to a lot of the students and hear their stories, their life stories, their education stories, how excited they are to be part of the program, and what they're inspiring to do in the careers that they want in the petrochemical industry. ExxonMobil knows firsthand the need for a new generation of young people who can come into our industry with a mastery of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And in fact, this isn't just for ExxonMobil. Approximately 8.6 million jobs will exist in STEM fields across the U.S. by 2018. Bolstering the work of CCPI, especially in the area of strengthening students' success in math and working to recruit new qualified faculty to teach these students, is really important in meeting these workforce needs. And that's why today is so important, because we can't do this alone. ExxonMobil is very pleased to see our investment being leveraged by the Helmsley Foundation, by JP Chase, and Educate Texas. As a major employer of STEM people, it's good to see other corporate partners and foundations recognizing the critical need for investment in community college technical programs and instructors who are training the next generation of petrochemical and skilled trade workforce. We truly appreciate all of the community colleges and are grateful for the ability that they have to teach technical skills. You are critical to strengthening the employability skills that are necessary to run our plants safely. What they are is running the plant safely, how to communicate, and actually how to solve problems. And that's what we're looking for out of the community colleges. Your vision to increase STEM education starting as early as K through 12 is unparalleled. So thank you for molding the next generation of talent for our industry. So here's to my people's story. Our first 2 community college wage interns started with us about 3 years ago. We hired them into the Baytown Olefins plant where I work. And right now they're a shining example of what Dr. Brown often refers to as our big challenge. We need to engage people. We then need to enroll them, we need to educate them, and then we need to employ them. They successfully completed their education at Lee College in the process technician program, and then they came to us at the Baytown Olefins plant. And I can tell you today, Crystal and Andy are doing fantastic jobs in being part of our successful operation of the plant. In fact, they are well on the path to being leaders at our plant and having a successful long-term career in the petrochemical industry. So, in closing, on behalf of ExxonMobil and our employees, I'd like to thank everyone here for pulling together and building more of these type of success stories through the program that we've talked about today. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to introduce Rich McKeon, the Program Director for the Education Program for the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust. Rich lives in New Jersey, works in New York City, but has family here in Houston. I think this is the 3rd time he's been down here, over the course of 2 years we've been working on it. But it has been such a pleasure to work with the Helmsley Charitable Trust over the last couple of years. They brought 2 ideas to us that were kind of new to Educate Texas. We've talked about them a little bit. One is the idea of faculty engagement. Because, in a lot of ways, the most important thing we're going to do is to empower community college faculty and higher ed faculty to make contextual, project-based learning, just sort of bring math and science alive. Kids, I have 10-year-old twins, kids are natural little scientists, but at some point in middle school and high school and college, we kind of beat the fun, out of STEM education, and we just have huge dropout rates. In the first couple of years of STEM education. So, the first idea was this idea of faculty engagement, trying to help faculty do things differently. The second was to really look at the STEM labor market industry and to really get in there in Houston and the rest of the metro areas in the state of Texas and see what are the jobs that are being offered and are they the same jobs and skills that colleges and universities are offering. Because in a lot of cases, there's a disconnect. We added 2 ideas, which that Texas is a big state, and we can't do it one employer and one college, and one high school at a time, that it's got to be regional. And just the whole idea of K-12, higher ed, employers, and workforce come together. So it's just been such a joy, to work with Rich and his team. Please join me in welcoming Rich McKeon from the Helmsley Charitable Trust.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. It's been a pleasure to work with Educate Texas as well. We work throughout the country, and I'll talk a little bit about the foundation just to give you a little bit of background. But since John mentioned my brothers who live here, 2 of my brothers recently moved here, one within the last 2 years and one who's been here for 6 years or so. Both work in STEM-related fields. One's at University of Houston and running a lab there, and another one is at Texas Medical Center. So very much involved in the STEM fields. And I think one of the earlier remarks about making sure that we can that here in Texas you can have Texas residents fill these jobs is much more important, because my family, although I'm from a big family, there's 13 of us children. My nephews and nieces can't fill all the jobs that Texas is about to have, and currently has. But just a little bit about Helmsley Trust. But we started about 8 years ago in grant making in 2008, and since then we've committed $1.5 billion in a whole range of areas, including health and medical research, which is one of our biggest areas, where we're the largest funder in the country of type 1 diabetes research. Also the largest rural healthcare funder, which you don't normally associate with a foundation in New York City. But we have offices in South Dakota that work in about 7 rural states and do a lot of healthcare access in those regions. We also do work in Crohn's and colitis, and Our other non-healthcare related areas include conservation work internationally. We do some work in Israel. We do some work in vulnerable children in Africa. And we also, of course, do work in education. Our education work is really two major areas in K-12. We're really working on how do we make sure that high school students leave high school with the preparation they need for their next step, whether that be college or a career. The second big one is how do we make sure more STEM students who start as STEM majors in college, actually complete a degree or certificate that gives them a living wage career. We know nationally 60% of students who start as STEM majors don't complete a degree as STEM majors. So that's a big problem that we're dealing with across the country. We also know that there's particular problems with completion for underrepresented students, as well as women in certain subdisciplines like engineering and computer science, where they're not as well represented. So our focus is not just on getting more graduates, but making sure that our graduates are more diverse, both economically, racially, and ethnically. So we've been really working hard on that. And one of the reasons we chose to work in Texas is not only because of the great work that has already been started here, but also when we look across the country, Texas has the second most STEM jobs in the country after California. One, due to its size, and also due to the huge industry that you have here in Houston and throughout Texas. So we thought it was a natural place for us to work. In addition, the demographics of Texas are what the country will be like in 20 years. And so we felt like we should really understand how to do it right in Texas, a big state with big implications for the country's benefit. And also, they're doing things that are, I think we're doing, you've already got a jump start on this work. It's sometimes hard when we work across in different states to convince colleges to work with universities, to work with industry, to work with K-12, and you've already got that happening here, which is amazing. So we just want to build on that and help improve it and drive it even further. In terms of our approaches in our STEM work in college, it's really focused on instruction. We know that a lot of students, the students that do drop out, the majority of those 60% of students who drop out, they drop out in their first and second year. And often, in many cases, it's because they're not engaged. They're being taught in lecture-style classrooms that is really kind of those gut classes you just have to get through before you get to do the fun stuff that a lot of students associate with STEM, and where we engage students often in middle school and high school, and they get these great robotics programs that was mentioned earlier. Then we put them into a college classroom, and they have people speaking at them from a 200-person lecture hall or a 500-person lecture hall. It just doesn't do well. And I'm really excited because before this meeting today, I got a chance to meet with a number of the faculty from the colleges that are participating. And that was a lesson they didn't have to learn. They've already been doing this. They've already been teaching in these interactive ways. They know what industry is looking for. They are addressing the needs of industry in their classrooms so that students see the real world applications to what they're learning in the classroom every day, because it'll be potential future jobs that they can take on. So that's incredible. We also look at student supports. What are the supports that students need, whether it's advising, mentoring. Sometimes there might be a first year experience. One of the colleges talked about a cohort model where they bring in students kind of as part of the same cohort, which kind of allows them to feel more comfortable as they progress. And we're seeing that work very effectively across the country. I mentioned the labor market alignment. You've got that here. So those three things together for us are a model here in Texas of what we hope will be a national model we can replicate in other states. So we're hoping that you can perfect it, learn a lot from it, tell us what's working well and what's not working so well, because we'd love to have other states do this. We'll let you hire all of those people, though, that you produce before we work on other states. So we want to make sure that you get it right here, but we already know you've got the right ingredients in place. The passion from the educators, from the presidents of these colleges is tremendous. So we're just happy to be a part of it. We're looking forward to see the results as this gets off the ground and keeps going. So we really look forward to learning a lot from you. So appreciate your time, and thanks for having us involved.
Our last speaker before the grant presentation is Melissa Duarte, the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction from Goose Creek ISD. She and Goose Creek are a leading partner of the Gulf Coast Partners Achieving Student Success, which is among the many initiatives here that really provides the foundation and support. Please join me in welcoming Melissa.
So I'm going to give you a warning to begin with. They have put a 25-year veteran educator in front of you who is going to give you some history. Teaching never leaves our bones once we start that profession. We're going to kind of go through some history of education and where we are today. We are very, very excited to be a part of this partnership and the opportunities that it's going to provide our students to excel, especially in the STEM area. But I want to talk about back in none of us were here, 1840s, when we started educational reform and we pushed for establishing a free and public education open to all children, all genders, social classes. And the purpose was to train our students to become skilled workers while teaching them the traditional core academic disciplines. And the supporters believed we would create better citizens and a culturally uniform American society. It did not take long for us to realize that our population was growing more diverse. And by the 1890s, progressive educational principles began to take hold. We began to talk about vocational education and opportunities that we had to instill in our students. Fast forwarding to the 2000s, we're talking about career and technical education for our students and what can we do to prepare them for the future. So educators found this work could not be done in isolation, and partnerships needed to be forged to provide the greatest opportunities for our students to succeed and become the strength of our future. It's really easy for our students to be lost in this sea of options. We have 8th graders under House Bill 5 that have to choose a pathway that they're going to opt to go into their high school years to kind of gauge them for career and workforce opportunities. Now, how many of you in college knew exactly what you were going to do and picked every course that you wanted to take, and then how many of you changed your mind 20 times? So when we think of 8th graders and we think of those opportunities, that's hard for 13 and 14-year-olds to experience. So it's our partnerships with industry, with community colleges, with higher education that expose, and the exposure that they provide is critical to developing our students' understanding of future choices. And career and technical education is one way that our students are exposed to those career options. In Goose Creek, we have over 40 pathways that our students could choose from in 8th grade. And several of those fall under the STEM industry. So when we think about career and technical education and the benefits it provides for high school students, we know high school students involved in CTE are more engaged, perform better, and graduate at higher rates. We know that 81% of dropouts say relevant and real-world learning opportunities would have kept them in high school. We know that the average high school graduation rates for students concentrating in career and technical education programs is 93% compared to the national average of 80%. And we know that more than 75% of secondary CTE concentrators pursued post-secondary education shortly after high school. They found that niche and they found that interest. How does CTE work for college students and adults? Post-secondary CTE fosters post-secondary completion and prepares students and adults for in-demand careers. 4 out of 5 of our secondary CTE graduates who pursued post-secondary education after high school, and they earned a credential or were still enrolled 2 years later. So we're not seeing those dropouts. 27% of people with less than an associate degree, including licenses and certificates, earn more than the average bachelor degree recipient. How does CTE work for business? I promise, only 2 pages. CTE addresses the needs of high-growth industry and helps close the skill gaps. And skilled trades are the hardest jobs to fill in the United States. If we look at healthcare occupations, many of which require an associate degree, make up 12 of the 20 fastest growing occupations. And STEM occupations, such as environmental engineering technicians, require an associate degree and will experience faster than average job growth. So we are hitting that industry that we need to focus on within this area. Education stakeholders, including community colleges, are coming together to improve links with the workforce in order to better prepare students. And the fruits of these labors are streamlined systems, more clear career paths, and solid cost savings. We share faculty on the campuses. We share students on our campuses. We have a lot of transfer between the public schools and the community college. We meet a lot of the same workforce and community development needs with our focus because we share that same footprint. So what can we do better together than we can do separately? So it is the partnership that is the key to us improving the opportunities for our students. So you've got an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. So we are going to go into curriculum and instruction. Curriculum innovation is going to be the heart of the partnerships and the collaborative efforts, the initiatives that we experience like GC Pass and the Texas Regional STEM Degree Accelerator Initiative. Due to these initiatives, a focus on linkages between instruction at the high school and instruction at the college are discussed. We have a clear understanding of vertical alignment across all core curriculum, which has been developed that's only going to benefit what we call our students, if they're in industry, if they're in the college, if they're in the high school. In addition, we're able to address the needs of the workforce who's telling us we need critical thinkers, we need good collaborators, and we need globally experienced students. So this integration of technical education and employment-oriented goals in academic educational programs seeks to create a more well-rounded education that satisfies both the demand for skilled employees and the need for a knowledgeable and engaged citizenry. These are such great opportunities that our students will receive through the collaborative efforts and ultimately would have a positive impact on the future of this community. So again, as a K-12 educator, we appreciate the partnership, we appreciate the opportunity to work together, and we ultimately look for the success in the future of our children. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. All right, well, the magic moment is here. If I can ask Chris Coxon, our managing director, to get the big check and ask President Brown and Carolyn and Rich to come up and stand next to it. But I'd also like to ask representatives from ECMA, CCA, the Workforce Board, one representative from each community college, and a partner. If you're a partner in this project, can you come up and join and be part of this? Whether you're the Workforce Board, ECMA, CCA, one of the community colleges or school district, we want you to be part of this. Mr. Beard, okay, I think you're part of this somehow.
So on behalf of the funding partners in Educate Texas, we're thrilled to make a grant to Lee College in Dennis of $750,000 for the Gulf Coast Regional STEM Accelerator grant.